me smile, walk me home, so I don't have to do this all on my own.
Hi, everyone. Sarah from Race to Rise, and have we got a treat for you today? We're not only talking with Damaris Giha about her great resignation story, but she's also going to be sharing a bit of her music with us here today. Damaris is a Brooklyn-based singer-songwriter known as Summer Baby, and during the pandemic, as she was feeling burnt out during her advertising agency job, she realized she had a deeper nudge, a pull to pursue music full-time, and so she quit her job. Her story was picked up in Cosmopolitan magazine, which is also how we found her, and she's here today to share a bit of her journey and her experience in addition to her incredible music. So Damaris, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for allowing me to share my story.
Well, we are so excited to have you here today because you have such an inspiring, unique story. So let's start a little bit with all of that and how it developed. How did you decide to pursue music full time? Kind of take us through the timeline and everything that led up to that.
I had decided in October of 2019, or actually even a little bit before that, I was ready to start making music. I had recorded my first single in October of 2019. And I was like, wow, this is the dream. Like, this is a dream come true. Just making the single was a dream come true. And then I was like, I want more of this. I want to keep doing this. So I kind of took the next few months and was just trying to figure out how to be a full-time, project manager in advertising and also pursue being a singer-songwriter. And I was reading this book called How to Make It in the New Music Business, which is kind of like a Bible for independent singer-songwriters. And it was early in the book, in the beginning of the section, I read this part that basically said, if you're serious about this, you really only have two options. You can quit your full-time job and give music your everything, or you have to have a day job where you work with your hands because you need to save all your creative energy for your music. And as I read that part, like my heart started quickening, and there was like this solidifying in my heart, this kind of knowing that that's what I have to do. I just like knew. And there wasn't even really for me any like, I'll take a few months and kind of see how I feel about it. It was just like, I kind of instantly knew like, that's what I'm being called to do. And so that was February of 2020. And so I made a year-long plan that in a year I would quit my job. And in between that, I would save as much money as I possibly could so that I would have a nice little cushion for when I left and be able to work on my music and not scramble to feel like I had to support myself in other ways. So did the savings, saved for a year, which brought me to February of 2021. And at that point I was like, oh, I kind of miscalculated. I definitely need more money than I originally thought. And I stayed at my job for another 6 months, mostly to save, and also because the world wasn't really open. It was like kind of sort of opening, but I was like, if I leave, I'm not going to be able to perform anywhere anyway. So I just stayed, saved some more money. And then finally in August of 2021, put in my notice, and took the plunge.
Oh, congratulations. That is so exciting. So tell me, how has it been so far?
There have been a lot of highs and definitely some lows. I wish I could say that, I left my job and I've been thriving ever since. I mean, I think in some ways I am thriving, but it's definitely not as glamorous, I think, as someone might imagine it to be. But I'll say a few things. One is that it feels incredibly rich to be able to work in your purpose and like work on your calling. I think in all the different places that I've worked, I've used gifts that God has given me, and I've been good at them, but I've never felt before that I'm like working on something that I was created to do. So that has been a really amazing part of this process. And it also has been very challenging in figuring out how to be an independent singer-songwriter. It really is a lot of kind of running your own business. You know, I kind of knew what I was getting into, but I think a lot of people don't realize it's basically like being an entrepreneur. What the kind of things you're responsible for before you're able to pay anyone else to do that. So, and then it's also just challenging in terms of shifting from that kind of 9-to-5 corporate lifestyle where everything is, you kind of know what to expect, to this lifestyle where every day is a little bit different and you really have to self-manage and self-motivate, which I think has been the most difficult part for me. And adjust to having less, adjust to having less in ways, I think. Less people involved in your life, less opportunities to kind of like go out and socialize, less benefits. But what I really love about it is being able to have like my own hours, you know, to make my hours my own, to make my time my own, and to call the shots on my time.
I can completely appreciate that and relate to everything you said from doing the same thing myself. Well, it's hard to go from a place of real predictability where you know what every day is going to bring, at least to an extent, right? On either side of that 9-to-5, there could be a lot of crazy that happens in the middle. I'm sure being in an agency too, but you at least kind of have at least a bit of predictability to that. But then when you start charting like your own path and your own kind of territory, there's so much to figure out, and it can be really hard to not know exactly what to do, or to maybe feel not like 100% great at something because you're still learning the business side of it, or kind of all those things. There's so many learning curves that come into play. And even personally, it's been like such a deep learning of who I am, and even some of the things that I think about the world and what I want for my future. Because I think there's a ton to unpack too once you leave the corporate environment, to start really understanding who is Damaris without a 9-to-5 job. Who is Damaris's summer baby instead? And you're really building that identity. I don't know if that relates at all for you.
It definitely does. And to kind of like nuance it a little bit more, I also was diagnosed, or like in the process of being diagnosed with depression. I've been struggling with depression. So that has made this whole, like these whole 9-ish months, like even more difficult. And while I've enjoyed so many parts of it, like struggling with depression makes all those, like all parts of life that much more painful and difficult. So it's really, I mean, I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about who I want to be as an artist, but I've also just been taking a lot of time to figure out what my body needs and what like I need as a human being to feel joy and to feel fulfilled. So it hasn't been a cakewalk. It's been, again, like lots of highs and lots of lows, but yeah, what I say that just because I don't want people to think that like I left my job and now I'm doing great and I've got nothing to worry about. But yeah, it's like I'm still dealing with, you know, regular other normal people stuff.
Exactly. It's so true. Well, thank you for sharing that too, because I'm sure so many people can relate, especially with the pandemic too. Brought a lot of mental health concerns for people to the surface, because we're all experiencing this just crazy collective trauma, and to try and sort through what that means is so tough. So I admire your courage so much. And to your point, that's what I think is so important about sharing stories and having these conversations, is that it's not about just romanticizing this idea of quitting your job. I was having this conversation with a few women a couple weeks ago who were kind of saying like, is that what your project is about? And it's not about that. It's looking at and unfolding, unpacking all the layers of it so that people can know what to even expect. because there's always the light and the dark of everything, right? That's kind of the nature of life, to your point of it being very nuanced. So I think it's really amazing that you're open to sharing that to help other women as well as they're navigating this. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I know I'm not the only one who's depressed. So yeah, I'm trying not to feel, any shame where I'm talking about that.
Absolutely. No, and it's so true too, because when you're on the hamster wheel and you're going, it's so hard to figure out what your body needs and to be able to give yourself the space and time to heal, to even know, because there's no great manual or textbook for how to heal. So I applaud you for doing that and taking that time, because if you are more whole and healthy, then summer baby music thrives as well.
Yes. And I love that you said that, because for a while, I don't think I recognized the depression because I was also burnt out. And so it took me a few months to realize it, because the symptoms are similar. And I was like, oh, I'm just tired. I'm recovering from, so I left in August. And then from like August through December, I was just really tired. I was just really down, lack of motivation, lack of energy. And I'm like, I'm just recovering from the burnout. And so it was hard for me to realize what it actually was. So yeah, I think to your point, like it makes it like those lifestyles, it makes it hard for us to figure out what our bodies actually do need and what is the root cause of all of that.
Exactly. And I personally have found too, like when you're in work, our brains are so good at running all the time and keeping us distracted, even from like sitting, pausing, and kind of going deep within to even figure out what might be in there. And so I'm completely with you in that regard. And I'm so glad to hear that you're prioritizing Damaris first and foremost. It's so important.
Thank you. I'm happy to share it. I'm like
amazing.
I'm not trying to hide it, and feel like it's an important part of the story to know. That like, yeah, because I get people saying like, oh, you must be thriving. And I'm like, I'm barely hanging on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Depending on the day, like the reality is, it's like, I'm just surviving today, or like this week or this month. Using your words, like, we don't want to glamorize it, or like, I don't know. The people who do this, like, don't leave because they're like, peace, I want to live off the grid, or like, I don't want to like work anymore, I don't know. It's because some of us, like, we feel called to something, we have been feeling called to something, and we want to honor that. And I needed to honor it. So but that doesn't mean that like it's an easier life, because it's not in a lot of ways.
In so many ways, it's far more difficult to listen to that inner knowing that is telling you got to do something that is completely outside of your comfort zone, and you're going to have to blaze that trail completely on your own as well, versus if you were to just stay in your current role. Like we were saying before, it's predictable. You have such a sense of stability and security, even if a part of you feels trapped. Our brains and our bodies are wired for that comfort and that homeostasis. So I am 1000% with you. It is so difficult to be like, I can't see what is in front of me and I don't know what's to come, but I'm going to put that one foot out there in front of the other and see where it takes me. Well, and so to that end, then, have you always been musically inclined, or is it more so something that you got into in 2019?
I've always been involved with music in some capacity. I started singing in church when I was 10 years old. I did musical theater from age 11. So I've been singing for most of my life. I started writing when I was 16. But I think the dream has taken different forms when I was young, it was like, I want to be in High School Musical. Like, that is the dream. That's what I want to do. I want to be in musical theater. I want to be on Broadway. And then when I was in college, that was still the dream until I suffered a lot of vocal trauma and basically couldn't sing for 6 years. And so there were a lot that happened like internally in my own thought life in those 6 years, but there were many times where I thought I wasn't going to be able to sing again. And the dream shifted for me. So it was like, okay, well, if I can't do that, I'll just pursue film. And so I was kind of trying to figure out what that looked like in my life. And I landed in advertising thinking I would make a shift from, like producing ads to somehow like producing and directing film. Like, that was my thought process. But then quickly realized after being there, I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. Music is still and always will be my first love. I think I just need to figure out, even while my voice is the way it is, not strong enough really, I need to figure out a way to still pursue it. And so my thought process was, well, I can still record. I can record on my own terms. I can record on my own time. I can kind of control things a little differently and a little better than if I was, say, doing 8 shows a week on Broadway, That's how everything started kind of falling into place. So then, in 2019, as I started just kind of reflecting, well, how do I want music to be part of my life? I was like, well, yeah, I can still record. So let me record this song that I have, that I really like and I think is good and ready to be recorded. So that's how that journey went.
And then how did you come across the book? How did that come into your orbit?
Yeah, let me go grab it because I have it right over here. It's really such a good resource for people. So if you're a musician at all, you need to buy this book. It's called How to Make It in the New Music Business. And I hope you can see it. I don't know if it's like reversed for you.
Yes.
But Ari Herstand is the author. And it's just such a great resource for people who are not with a label, who really have no idea where to start. And I didn't have any idea where to start. And so I am always plugging this book because it's been really helpful for me. How did I find out about, a friend of mine who's also a singer-songwriter, who I kind of got reconnected with in 2019. He was talking about the book and he was like, yeah, this dude's like super knowledgeable and it's been super helpful. You should read it. So I did. So I kind of owe my leaving to my friend Reed.
That's awesome. I just love how it can be, if we're open to being curious, how the right things can end up in our path at the right time to get us where we need to go.
The reality is like, I don't think I would have considered it in the same way had it not been for this book. I was just kind of trying to make it work while being in advertising. I was like, surely I've seen other people do it. Like, surely I can do it if they are able to have, a decent career while having a full-time job. But I think I grew to know myself better, which is that I'm not the kind of person, like I do admire those people who can like do their 10-hour job and then they go home and then they work on their music for 5 hours and then they get like 4 hours of sleep and then they get up and they do it all over again. I am not that person. I don't know if I've ever been that person. I was the person in college who like always only took 4 classes because I was like, I'm trying to enjoy myself. So I worked hard and I pushed myself, but I just have never been the kind of person that I'm like, I'm going to sacrifice sleep and like all my like personal well-being so I can achieve this goal. Which I think I think that's a good like takeaway from this is you kind of have to know what you need to pursue your dream and to succeed. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to work full time and also give my music what it needed. So I had to make that decision for myself, but there are people who do make it work. Like Meg Thee Stallion's like went to college and got her degree while she was making all this music. So it's possible, but not for everyone.
Well, you make a great point as far as knowing yourself. because everybody's creative process is a little bit different too. And I've personally found that as well, that mine will stall out if I'm too busy doing too many kind of like mind-based tasks.
Yes.
Or if there's something like emotional going on in my life as well, then my creativity will shut down completely. So it becomes just like honoring your creative process and knowing that the best that you're going to produce is not going to come through forcing it if that is not your rhythm, if the 10-hour day and then 4 more hours at night is not your rhythm. So I think, to your point, that is an amazing takeaway for anyone listening here, to get to understand that about themselves.
Agreed.
Yeah. So how did Cosmopolitan find you for their story about women of the Great Resignation?
Oh, that was the magic of hashtags, which I like am still kind of floored that it works that way. Like, the power of social media is a blessing and a curse, I think. Yeah, so I had made a post towards the end of last year or the beginning of this year where I was starting to gear up to release my first single. And so part of my strategy included revealing my stage name, Summer Baby. But then before that, I think I wanted people to kind of know, like, hey, I'm out here. I left my job and I'm working really hard to like bring some new music into the world. Like, this is what I'm going to be doing from now on. So I just posted a little blurb about leaving my job and hashtagged it the Great Resignation. And then from that, maybe like, yes, it was mid-December, maybe like a week later, got an alert or like a DM from an editor at Cosmopolitan. So it's just like really crazy. And so she was like, hey, I'd like to find out more about your story. And I was like, at the time I was lying in bed from Omicron, and I was like, yeah, sure, we can talk about my story. So she like interviewed me as I'm sick from COVID. And she's like, well, okay, we're doing a few more interviews, but I think we would really love to include your story. We'll confirm a little later. And they ended up including my story, which was really lovely.
So cool. That is absolutely the magic of social media, even for kind of like all the crazy and chaos it can bring to your world.
Yes.
That's amazing. That's so exciting. Well, so what is next for you with Summer Baby music?
Well, right now I'm kind of in a phase of making more money to make the music. So I'm freelancing right now. And that's a kind of like side note. I think that's also the great thing about how my path has led to where I am now, is now I have these skills I can freelance with, so when I need more money, I can do a short contract, do like a 3 to 4 month contract, rack up the money, and then go and focus on music for however many more months, So I'm in a phase where I'm currently freelancing, making some money for some future projects. I am going to be recording some new stuff later this year, probably in the summertime. And I want to record an EP, I believe, towards the end of this year. So got a few more singles I want to drop, and then an EP for later this year or the beginning of next year. This is how far out you have to think when you're an independent songwriter, because it just like all of it takes time and money. And then I have a live recording I did of a few songs that I'm going to be releasing in the next few weeks. So I'm super excited about that because it's my first bit of video content. And yeah, so that's kind of, and then I've also started performing. So I did a few shows in April and am now looking to put together my own show. Yeah, so I've got some things in the works, which is making me excited. And it all is happening on my own time, like at my pace, which is the other thing that's great about kind of doing what I did and making my own schedules. Like, I can kind of just go at my own pace. And if I've got other things going on, like work or, trying to recover from depression, I have the room to make room for that in my life and prioritize different things. So honestly, a lot of this last season has been in my downtime, like just trying to figure out how to cope in healthy ways. And like, if I need to take a nap, or if I need to go take a walk, or just things like that. I'm I'm trying to have a lot of grace for myself and just kind of give myself what I need as I'm going through this difficult season. So that, I would say that honestly, that's probably been one of the biggest blessings from this last few months, is just being able to be like, this is what I need, and I have the space to give myself what I need. Which I probably wouldn't be able to do that if I was still working my corporate job.
Yeah, most definitely. That grace piece and like self-compassion is so important when you're navigating a big transition and healing and all of that stuff. So it's really exciting to hear you've got some magic as far as music making on the horizon, but in a way that's really flowy and honors where you are so that you can be healthy as you show up as Summer Baby. So I love that so much.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. I'm really grateful. I realized that, this is in a lot of ways, I'm in a place of privilege, to be able to do this, to have saved the money that I saved, and to have gotten to the point where I can freelance, like that. I feel like I'm really grateful. I feel blessed that I'm able to do that and acknowledge that not everyone can do that. So, it feels like a blessing, in as many ways that it has not felt like a blessing, it also sometimes does feel like a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. I can totally appreciate that. So then if you were to give some advice to other women who might be in your shoes, whether they're considering leaving a role to pursue some other type of artistic passion, or they just feel that same sort of that voice that's telling me there's something more for me out there, what would your biggest piece of advice be for them?
I'm sure a lot of people say this, but I feel like collectively we're kind of just bad at this, following your gut. I feel like I am getting better at this. And I think this was one of the first times where I followed my gut and I didn't look around to see, like, is this the right thing? Like, I mean, in some ways I did. I prayed about it a lot. I'm a person of prayer. So I prayed about it and I just wanted to make sure, but at no point did I really feel like I had misheard the calling, or like that my gut was telling me something that I shouldn't, that I needed to, like, I don't know, mistrust in any way. So, and it's like one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. So I would say, trust your gut. I would say, more practically, like, if you can afford to get a financial coach to help you plan out your transition, if you're not jumping from one job to another, I highly recommend consulting with someone or setting up a budget with someone who can help you be realistic about the transition plan and how much you're going to need, which was super helpful for me. I did that, and it turns out like I miscalculated quite a bit on my own. So it was really helpful to have someone else gut check that. And then I guess the last thing I want to say is, it can be, if you're kind of transitioning to more of the lifestyle that I have, which is you're not in an office anymore, you're not working necessarily with a company, you're kind of doing your own thing. It can get lonely, which, if you are entrepreneurially minded, or you've done that before, like, it's known as the entrepreneur blues, I think, right, Sarah? It can be lonely. So this is less of advice and more of like advice for myself as well. Like, we need to find our people, and we need to make sure that we make space in our day to connect with people, even if it's not about our work. There's someone from my last job who recently reconnected with me, and he's like, hey, let's just go get coffee. And it's been a really lovely reconnection, and also just like a really good part of my week to just have someone else to connect with. That's, because I spend most of the day in my apartment. So that's been very helpful for me. So I guess my advice there is just like, seek out community, whether it's, revolves around your work or not.
I think that piece around not having it revolve around your work too is even more priceless, because you've got to have that balance as well to get to feel like you can just be a human unwinding and connecting with someone versus just always talking about all your work all the time. I love that you said my name because that's a lesson for me for sure. So I need to take that one to heart as well. Because I think too, like when you're starting out on your own, you're like so focused and you're like, it has to be all the time, but it's so good for the soul to take that time just to connect and just be, and not be Summer Baby, not be Raised to Rise, just be Sarah and Damaris. So
right?
I'm totally with you.
Like, that's why we left, right? We left so we wouldn't have to be beholden to like the way things were before. Like, we have that freedom to be like, you know what, I'm just gonna leave for an hour and go do this thing, and then I'll come back and continue, you know, pivot back. So yeah, agree.
Exactly. So if you could go back in time then to Damaris on the precipice of turning in your resignation letter, and you've accumulated all this hindsight now from the ups and downs of the journey, what would you go back and tell her?
I think I would go back and tell her that you're doing the right thing, and it's okay to be that you're nervous, because I was so nervous putting in I wasn't really nervous about most of everything except like telling my boss that I was going to resign, because he is a great boss. I don't know, I thought there's much different I would tell her, like much else that I would tell her, to be honest, because I feel like maybe I would say that it's probably going to be a lot more challenging than you think. Like, it's going to be a lot harder to be motivated. I think I would just, in a way, like prepare her a bit more for what was on the other side by saying like, hey, this is going to be actually a really difficult journey for you. And like a little lonely at times. But in a way, I'm kind of glad I didn't know that. Because I don't think it would have affected my decision, but like some things, it's like, okay, that you don't know before you make this decision. So I guess what I would say is, I'm not sure that there's much I would say to her. Oh, no, I got it. Sorry, this answer has taken so many different turns.
That's okay.
I think I go back to what I said at first, which is like confirming that you're doing the right thing, and it's going to be hard, but it's going to be great, you know, and it's not going to look like what you thought it was going to look like, but it's still going to be great. And you probably won't be as prolific in terms of like output as you would like, but it's still going to be great. I think that's what I keep coming back to, you know?
I totally can appreciate that. It's, as humans too, they've done studies in psychology as far as like what our current world and sort of present situation is. We tend to take that and we project out, and it's really hard for us to picture ourselves with different paths, different people in our lives, all these different things. It's so hard to predict and know anyway, that I think, to your point, it could have even like tainted a little bit of like the purity and beauty of that moment of you're so excited to take the leap. And if you had known everything that was to come, because I think sometimes you just have to, part of that journey and that learning is figuring things out along the way. At least that's been my experience. So yeah.
Yes, agreed.
This has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for everything you've shared. Can you tell us, please, how we can find Summer Baby and your music?
Absolutely. So my music as Summer Baby is on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, pretty much all the platforms. It's on YouTube, Bandcamp. And I will be releasing some more on all those platforms very soon. And on Instagram, that's where I'm most active. I am on TikTok, but I'm most active on Instagram. I'm at summerbaby underscore music. So that's at summerbaby underscore music. I'm also on YouTube under Summer Baby. So yeah, I'm pretty accessible under all those platforms, and we'll have some stuff coming your way soon.
Perfect. And then what are you sharing with us for your performance?
Oh, good. I'm glad you asked, because this song that I'm going to share is called Help Wanted, which I wrote back in 2018 when I was kind of just like struggling with the weight of all the things I felt like I had to do in order to take care of myself. And I was like, man, like, I don't really need a boyfriend, but I would just love someone to be around to just like help me carry my groceries up the stairs, or like help me, most of it revolved around bringing stuff up the stairs, like help me bring this piece of furniture up the stairs, or like help me do my grocery shopping. So it's just coming from the place of acknowledging that, like, hey, listen, I'm an independent woman, I don't need anybody, but like I also would like a little bit of help. So I feel like that's appropriate, because we often are like, don't ask for what we need, but I feel like this song is a very like honest exploration of honoring our independence as women and as single women, especially because I'm a single woman, but also being honest about like, it's really nice to have help sometimes. Yeah, so that's what this song will be about.
Amazing. Well, we're so excited to listen to it. Thank you so much for everything. You're absolutely a ray of sunshine, and all of your wisdom that you've shared is so powerful. Thank you for giving us a really transparent look at everything. And I can't wait to follow your journey. We'll share more as Damaris releases more of Summer Baby's songs. So more to come.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This has been an absolute pleasure. You're wonderful. You're a wonderful interview, and your energy has been wonderful as well. So thank you for giving me the chance to speak with you.
Living in the city can be such a drag. Even independent women sometimes need help with their bags, or a chair brought up the stairs, back rubs here and there. No, I don't need no man, but sometimes it's nice to have someone who cares. I'm wondering if you could give me your time. Just a few hours would be fine, but every single Thursday, say you'll be mine. Pick me up, swing on by. I'll be standing on the corner at 5. Make me smile, walk me home, so I don't have to do this all on my own. Oh, 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 oh. Now I know that this offer may not be so tempting at first, but I'm hoping you'll see, oh you'll see, yeah, how much my company is worth. Hey, can't pay you in dollars, can't pay you in love. No, this won't be the romance that you're dreaming of, but the least I could give you are my lips and my embrace. Maybe I'll tease you with a taste. Whoa, I'll keep this stupid simple. Let's cut to the chase. A love affair would just be a waste, but for ease of convenience, I'll still hold a space. Can you drop by my place? Pick me up, swing on by. I'll be standing on the corner at 5. Make me smile, walk me home, so I don't have to do this all on my own. I'll admit this arrangement's a little bit strange, but I ain't got no time for a heartbreaker's games. To avoid confusion, I'll over-explain. See, what I'm asking from you is really quite small. Don't think I'll play the fool who's willing to fall. No, I'm not gonna risk losing it all. Pick me up, swing on by. I'll be standing on the corner at 5. Make me smile, walk me home, so I don't have to do this all on my own. Whoa. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da-da, yeah. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da, yeah. Pick me up, babe, right at 5, right on time. You don't have to spend a dime. All I need is your time. Come on, baby, pick me up right outside. Ooh.